In April 2026, a band that a lot of Americans forgot even existed is going back on the road for their 50th anniversary. The band is Triumph, and if you were around in the late 70s and early 80s, you know exactly who they are. The Canadian power trio behind Lay It on the Line, Magic Power, and Fight the Good Fight. Arena anthems, laser shows, flamethrowers, the whole spectacle. And then, right at the peak, they fell apart, and the guitar player didn't speak to his bandmates for 20 years. Now, they're back together. Which makes this the perfect moment to explain what actually broke Triumph up. Because the real reason isn't a scandal or a betrayal. It's something much more interesting, and it's a pattern you see in a lot of great bands, including some of the biggest names in rock history. The thing that made Triumph great is the exact same thing that destroyed them. Let me explain what I mean. First, a little context for anyone who slept on this band. Triumph was three guys: Rik Emmett on guitar and lead vocals, Gil Moore on drums and also vocals, and Mike Levine on bass and keyboards. And here's the comparison that follows them everywhere. They were constantly compared to Rush. Two Canadian power trios, both with a high-voiced singer, both with a virtuoso blonde guitarist, both breaking big in the same era. Emmett has a good sense of humor about it. He's basically said, yeah, I get it. Two three-piece Canadian bands, the singers sing high, the guitarists are blonde. Of course people mixed us up. But musically, here's the key difference, and it's the seed of everything that went wrong. Rush, whatever tensions they had, fundamentally agreed on a direction. All three of them wanted to go more progressive, more complex, more conceptual, and they moved that way together. Triumph didn't have that agreement. Triumph had three guys who wanted three different things, and that disagreement was baked into the band from the very beginning. Rik Emmett was, at heart, a musical omnivore. He's a genuinely gifted guitarist, not just a rock player, but someone fluent in blues, jazz, classical, flamenco, the whole vocabulary. And as a songwriter, his instinct pulled toward melody, toward popcraft, toward pretty and sophisticated and emotionally uplifting. He wrote the songs that got radio play, the melodic, inspirational ones like Hold On, where he literally said his goal was to write songs that made people feel better about themselves. Now put him next to Gil Moore. Moore, by Emmett's own account, would have been perfectly happy in a band like Kiss or Bad Company. Heavier, bluesier, more straight-ahead arena metal. Moore sang the heavier material. And Mike Levine, the bassist, was more inclined to go along with that heavier direction. So right there you have the fault line. One guy pulling toward melodic, genre-hopping sophistication, and the other two pulling toward heavy, blues-based arena rock. And here's the fascinating part. For about a decade, that tension worked. It made Triumph a more interesting band than either direction alone would have. You got the crunchy arena anthems and the soaring melodic songs on the same record. The friction created variety. The push and pull between Emmett's polish and Moore's heaviness gave the band a range that a lot of one-dimensional acts didn't have. The disagreement was, for a while, a feature, not a bug. But that kind of tension has a shelf life. Because every album becomes a negotiation. Every song is a small battle over which direction the band leans. And on top of the creative disagreement, you had the business layer. Triumph was structured as a business partnership, and there were record company pressures too, labels telling Emmett not to stray too far from the hard rock sound that sold. So now the artist who wants to grow and experiment is getting squeezed from two sides. His own bandmates want him heavier, and the record company wants him to stay in his lane. For a musician whose whole identity is about exploring, that's suffocating. Emmett has been very honest about how it ended, and he doesn't dress it up. He's called it messy, unhappy, and horrible. By the mid-80s, around the albums Stages and The Sport of Kings and Surveillance, the original partnership had eroded. Everyone had his own agenda. And in the fall of 1988, after a lot of soul-searching, Emmett walked away. He'd lost faith in where the band was going and decided he simply couldn't make his best music under those circumstances anymore. He wanted, in his words, to become his own benign dictator. No bandmates second-guessing him, no label looking over his shoulder. Art by democracy had stopped working for him. And then came the really striking part. He didn't talk to Gil Moore and Mike Levine for 20 years. Not a phone call. 2 decades of silence between men who had built something huge together. That's how much damage there was, and how hurt he was. Now here's the thing that makes this more than just a sad story. Emmett himself put his finger on exactly the right principle. He said the things that make a band good and unique are often the same things that create the tension that eventually breaks it up. And then he named the perfect example: Lennon and McCartney. Think about that. The friction between Lennon's raw edge and McCartney's melodic polish is why the Beatles were the greatest songwriting partnership in history. And it's also exactly why they couldn't stay together. Two strong, opposite creative visions in one band make magic, right up until they make war. That's Triumph in a nutshell. Emmett's melodic sophistication versus Moore's arena heaviness made a band more interesting than the sum of its parts, and guaranteed it couldn't last. It's not a failure of character. It's almost a law of physics for creative partnerships. The same energy that generates the spark eventually generates the friction that burns it down, which is what makes the 2026 reunion genuinely sweet rather than just a nostalgia cash grab. Time did what time does. In 2007, they finally shared a stage again at a Hall of Fame induction. The ice broke, and the friendship slowly came back. Not the business partnership, just the friendship. And now, 50 years after they started, in their 70s, they're going back out to play these songs one more time for the fans who never forgot them. So when you hear Triumph is back, understand you're not just watching a reunion tour. You're watching three men who proved that the very thing that once tore them apart, those three stubborn, different musical visions, was also the thing that made them worth remembering in the first place.